I probably know about half the people in the room. So for the other half of you, yeah, as Gabor mentions, my name is Max. Pinboard Consulting is one of the very few dedicated graphs and networks consultancies in the world. We moved into this space in 2022, which I think was, not a bad time to start. We've been through a few upheavals globally since then. But what I'm here to talk about mostly is graph technology, a world in flux, not a world in flux. Let's see. We just tested it. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have to manually move these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Zoom thing is in focus. Yes.
Yeah.
Now it will.
Let's have a try.
It's getting better.
Hey, there we go. So yeah, this is the headline. If you work in graph, everything is getting better. Graph databases are getting better. Graph libraries are getting better. Dennis name dropped Network X. When I first started using Network X about 5 years ago, it was fair reaction. Now you can run Network X on a graphics card, right? Unimaginable 5 years ago. The graph databases are getting better. They're getting faster. They're getting more stable. They're getting more widely adopted. Graph processing engines, something which didn't even exist, now A, exist, and B, are getting better. Things like PuppyGraph making huge strides. We're now seeing things like Graph AR, very timely, starting to come to the market as well. Graph frames, all these graph processing engines, they're already good and they're just getting better. The graph query languages are getting better. Right? If you compare GQL, Cypher, Gremlin, the proliferation of proprietary ones, AQL, UQL, everybody seems to like making their own. You've got Camarango's got their own flavor, Algebra's got their own flavor, but they are also getting better. Keith is later going to talk about how GQL is going to get even better. Graph querying on non-graph storage is getting better. SQL 2023, PGQ, already good and going to get better. It's just getting better. What does this all mean? And most importantly of all, awareness of graph is growing. As the tools get better and get easier and get more powerful, the awareness of the benefits of the tools grows. Benefits of graph database, benefits of graph libraries, benefits of graph analytics. We're all converts, right? Everyone in this room understands the power of graph, the power of network analytics, what you can do that non-graph can't do. But we kind of tend to talk to ourselves a lot. What's now helping is awareness of graph outside our very highly connected community is growing. The fact that I can know half the people in an international conference within 3.5 years of launching my company, there's very few fields where we can do that. And it's actually a bug, not a feature. We need to fix that. But awareness is growing. Yeah. So what's been the response to everything getting better? Because everything's been getting better for a while. More graph databases are coming onto the market. Kuzu, Falcor, it was the Redis graph, but it's also its own thing. There are others. I'm talking primarily here about the property graph space because that's the space I know. But there's, I think, is it Tentris or something? Tentris just launched. More graph databases are entering the market. The hyperscalers are paying attention. They're starting to improve their graph offerings, right? AWS came out with Neptune Analytics. They've plugged Neptune into Bedrock. Google's going very big on this. Spanner graph, already out there, already being used. Live, BigQuery graph, lots of interest in BigQuery graph. Going to go to GA next year, already in open beta, already a lot of interest in this space. Graph on relational offerings, grow and improve. If you are a database and you do not have a graph offering, well, databases is a competitive space, right? If you're Cockroach and you're trying to go after Spanner, and Spanner's got Spanner graph, and that's a reason to stick with Spanner or to adopt Spanner, what are you going to do if you're Cockroach? Probably going to have a look at, should we have a GQL plus SQL offering, right? And this is going to be the same across a lot of non-graph databases, they're going to go, oh, okay, maybe we need to look at this. And this is great for our space. DuckDB, PGKey, fantastic. Okay, well, great speech on this. It's online. If you haven't watched it, go and look it up. It's a really good video. But with the growing awareness of everything getting better, where is the growth coming from? And where is the growth going to go? My prediction. I do like to make predictions. I do like to put things out there that people can argue with and shoot down and can be proven wrong or proven right. The growth from everything getting better and the growth from this awareness will not be evenly distributed. Most of us have a fairly strong understanding of maths and distributions. I'm going to put up an incredibly complex one now. This is what I predict the growth of graph is going to look like. The growth of graph will primarily, I predict, not go to the graph databases. They will grow. The graph awareness will help them, but not much proportionally. The graph processing engines are going to capture quite a lot of it because they're the next layer down in the stack from a graph database. So things like PuppyGraph, Graph AR supported tools, graph frames, as that grows, Russ doing some great work there. I think they will actually capture more of the growth in the graph databases, and way beyond either of those two will be the graph on relational, graph on flat, graph on JSON, graph on other stores. This is how I think the market's going to play out. Why? Because where the graph growth is going to come from, I don't think it's going to come from the way that the graph databases have grown so far, which was people discovering the technique, discovering network science, discovering this thing called a node and an edge, and going, what tools are available to take advantage of what this can do? How can I get my hands on this power? Right? Go to a graph database. Why? Because that's what there is. It's a clunky library called NetworkX, years ago now, or it's a graph database, probably Neo, back in the day. The future growth will probably not come that way. The future growth, I suspect, this is my prediction, will come from people who are in SQL, smacking their head against a brick wall, trying to solve a problem, or looking at their monthly Databricks spend and going, does this query need to cost this? Looking at their BigQuery bill and going, really? Really? Is there no other way of doing this? Do I have to spend $10,000 a day on this query? And there are so many more people like that than there are of us. For every one of us, there's 100 people that use SQL, 1,000 people that use SQL, 10,000 people that use SQL. If a small portion of them become graph aware, that will swoop by orders of magnitude people who've come in from network science and discovered graph theory this way. Why will that lead to this distribution? Because they'll solve their problem and stop. Good enough is perfect. If you take one step beyond good enough, that was a wasted step because you're going to do something else with your time, right? You get to good enough, you go from $10,000 a day to $70 a month. And the reason I'm quoting those numbers is because they're real, because there's someone who's done it, sitting in the back of the room, salute to Poetry and Raftery, $10,000 a query to $70 a month. They'll just stop there. Why would, if they've solved their problem here, why would they move up to here? Oh, maybe they'll have a use case later that needs it. Maybe they'll jump all the way to here. Again, if they find a use case that needs it, but most people are just going to stop. They're going to go, oh my God, this is amazing. Stop. Some of them will go, oh my God, this is amazing. What else can I do? And again, then they just be able to do it here. And over time, these tools will just get better and better and better. My near-term prediction, and maybe I'm already out of date. Today, if you're doing anything in graph, you're probably using a graph database. Tomorrow may even be today in some places. If you're doing anything in graph, you'll probably be using a graph logical model. You've maybe used Hackalaid, or you've used G.V, or you've used Lucidchart, Draw.io to come up with a logical model. To query tables, column stores, JSON, even unstructured, right? With GraphRag, you can just have PDFs supporting your graph. That can be your store. This is, I think, where we're going. So it's not that this is going to shrink, although there will probably be some churn. There will probably be people who go, thank God, I don't need to do this in a graph database anymore. Churn. Bye-bye, I can do this in Spark now, right? But this space will grow. Right? People will find use cases that need the ultimate top level of performance. But that growth will be swamped by this. This is where the growth is coming from. About 6 months ago-ish, I put this slide out on LinkedIn. Some of you are nodding and smiling because you recognize it. For those of you that don't, the slides are going to be available. This talk of being recorded is going to be available. You can come take a look. Apologies, I don't have Graph AR on here, but we'll add it. But if you were to take that chart of growth, it matches the usage profile that I think we're going to have. The vast majority of data analytics will stay here and will never touch graph techniques. However useful they are, however much awareness we grow, people are still probably just going to stay in rows and columns. Why? Because everyone grows up using Excel. Excel is the killer app of the 20th century. Scalable Excel is the killer app of the 21st century, right? Rows and columns. Why? Because they learn it in school, they stick with it in university, they start with pandas, rows and columns. They're just so used to it. It's so natural. This space will grow. This space will grow. This space will grow. But the growth will be captured bottom up because people will get to good enough and stop.